When you say ecology here, the first term that we have is the scientific study of the interactions between organisms and their environments. Okay, so that means ecology is actually a science of relationships. It is going to be studying about the different relationships, not only between the different organisms that you have in your environment, but also of the rest of the factors that you find in your environment that may influence the survival and the different activities of the different organisms that your environment has. Okay, now our focus, of course, would be on how the energy is transferred from one organism to another. Now, when you talk about your environmental factors, when you think about your environment, there are two very distinct factors there. You've seen this in your warm-up today. The first one is your biotic factor, and the second one is your abiotic factor. For your biotic factors here, you have several examples you find in your screen. Okay, so you have your plants, fungi, your bacteria, archaea, animals, and protists. Now, for your abiotic factors, you have air, salinity, how salty the water is, how salty the environment is, soil, water, light, temperature, minerals, pH, and humidity. Okay, so remember, bio means life. And so when you say biotic factors, these are the factors, the components of your environment with life. Now, when you say abiotic factor, the prefix a there means without, okay, without life. So when you say abiotic factors, these are the non-living components of your environment. Life on Earth is organized in several ways. Okay, now remember, we all start from an atom. Okay, so when you say atom here, this is the basic building block of matter. Remember, matter is anything that occupies space and has mass. Anything that you see, or sometimes even those that you don't see. For example, air. Even air, you don't see it, unless, of course, it's polluted. Okay, you don't see it, but still it is an example of matter. Okay, it occupies space, it has volume, and of course it also has mass. Okay, so matter is anything that occupies space and has mass. Your atom is the basic block or the building block of matter. Now, if you have atoms combined, this can give you your molecule. Okay, this can give you your compounds, your different elements. And of course, when all these combine, we can come up with our macromolecule. Remember your biomolecules, those different molecules that support life. Remember your proteins, your carbohydrates, your lipids, your nucleic acids. These are all examples of macromolecules. Okay, now all these macromolecules, of course, would give rise to the different organelles that you have. Organelles, again, these are the tiny parts of your cell. Okay, tiny components of your cell: nucleus, mitochondria, chloroplast in your plant cells, your vacuole, your lysosome, your Golgi apparatus, endoplasmic reticulum, cytoplasm. Okay, these are all parts of your cell, and we all call this your organelles. Now, of course, your organelles would comprise your cell. Okay, the cell, of course, is the basic unit of structure and function of life, basic unit of structure and function in living things, in organisms. Now, question, can a single cell survive or not? Can one cell survive, yes or no? Can one cell survive? Yes or no? What do you think? How many? You have a 50% chance of being correct, a 50% chance of being wrong. Is it yes or no? Can a single cell survive? Yes or no? Okay, yes. Some of you are saying no, others saying yes. Correct answer would be yes. Okay, a single cell can survive. Remember, some of your organisms are unicellular. Okay, unicellular organisms are made up of just one cell. Example for this would be your bacteria. Okay, so again, a single cell can survive. Remember, we say a cell is the basic unit of structure and function. That means one cell equals life. Okay, a single cell can survive on its own. Okay, some organisms are unicellular. Now, if you have this group of cells, if you have a group of cells having the same structure and function, they, of course, would give rise to your tissue. If you have a group of tissues having the same structure and function, they would give rise to your organ. Okay, now who can give us some examples of organs? Say, for humans, what are some examples of organs that we have? Lungs, kidney, liver, that's correct. What else? Okay, the heart, your eyes, your brain, your ears, your nose. Okay, all these Okay, heart, that's correct. Stomach, that's correct. These are all examples of your organ. Okay, so when you say organ here, this is a group of tissues having the same structure and function. Now, going to the next level, if you have different types of organ and they play a specific role, okay, they're all helping each other to fulfill a specific function, then you'd call that your organ system. Okay, sometimes you also use the term body system. Can anyone give us an example of your body system? For humans, what are some examples of your body systems? All have specific roles. For example, your muscular system is doing another job as compared to the job that is performed by your nervous system. Circulatory system is doing a specific job. Okay, so all these 11 body systems that we have help each other so that we can all stay alive. Okay, so your body systems, your organ systems can contribute so that an organism may stay alive. Okay, so you have your organism here. Now, the next two levels of organization of life here are the terms population and community. Okay, oftentimes people get confused as to the meanings of these terms. Okay, now what do you think is the difference between population and community? Say we are thinking about a group of students in my classroom. Say all of you are inside my room. There's no pandemic. Okay, 2020 did not happen, and all of you are in my room. Okay, if we are thinking about a group of students in a classroom, would we use the term population or would we use the term community? Okay, it's a population, because the difference is that when you say population, this is a group of organisms belonging to the same species. Okay, so if we are thinking about a group of students in one room, then that is a population. None of you is a dog, none of you is a snake, none of you is an alligator. Okay, all of you are humans. You all belong to Homo sapiens. Okay, so again, that is a population. But when you say community, this is a group of organisms belonging to different species. Okay, so say you go to the Riverbank Zoo and you see the crocodile, the flamingos, you see the different birds, you see the different types of plants, for example, then you'd call that a community. When you say ecosystem here, we've talked about this a while ago, your ecosystem are not just relationships between the organisms, but that would also include the abiotic factors, okay, also their environment, the non-living components of their environment. Okay, so that can be your ecosystem. The last one here, the highest level in your organization of life, this is the biosphere. And these are all the layers of the earth that support life. Okay, so here you find the hydrosphere, the water component of the earth, the atmosphere, the gaseous layer of the earth. You also have the ecosphere. Okay, these are all the living parts, living organisms on earth. And of course, you also have the lithosphere, or sometimes also called geosphere. This is the rocky component of the earth, your core, mantle, crust. Okay, those are all parts of your lithosphere. Okay, so again, biosphere, these are all the 4 layers of the earth that support life. Okay, when you say habitat here, this is the place where a plant or an animal would naturally live and grow. Okay, very important point here, very important word, is the term natural. Okay, so when you say habitat, that is the place where you would find your plant and your animal. That's the natural place where they live and where they grow. For example, if you are thinking about your fish, their habitats, of course, would be in salt water. Okay, might be the ocean, might be the sea. If you think about your aquarium, say you've been to the SC Aquarium, we are going to have an activity that is going to be sponsored by your SC Aquarium next week. If you think about your aquarium, then you cannot consider that a habitat. Okay, that is not a habitat because, of course, that's nothing natural. Okay, it is not natural, it is artificial. Again, remember, habitat is the place where plants and animals naturally live and grow. Okay, now what about the second term? The second term again here is niche. Okay, when you say niche, this is the role of an organism or the role of an organism in its community. Okay, this is the role that an organism plays in its community. What is its role? Is it a predator? Is it a prey? Is it a parasite? Is it a host? Is it the producer? Does it make food? Is it a consumer? Okay, so all these, the different roles that they play, this would be this would be part of the niche. Okay, so again, habitat is the place, niche is the role. Okay, we go to the next slide. Now, another thing that we are going to study, we will also be talking about this tomorrow. This is a term limiting factor. Okay, when you say limiting factor here, this is any factor can be biotic or abiotic that limits the existence of a certain organism. Okay, so say you have a cornfield and you have a lot of rats. Okay, you have pests in that cornfield and you put or you apply some pesticides. Okay, the pesticide then can act as a limiting factor. Okay, it is abiotic, it is non-living, but it limits the existence of your pests. Okay, so that is a limiting factor. You can also have not pests, you can also have limiting factors that are organisms. For example, your rats are eaten by your eagle. Okay, your bigger birds. And so the birds now are limiting factors to your rats. Okay, so again, your limiting factor can be biotic. It can also be abiotic, but this limits the existence of a certain population of organisms. Okay, now we go to the different feeding relationships. I will be talking about 2 and 3 here, and then number 1, we will be talking about this in the next slides. Okay, so the 3 main types of feeding relationships here are producer and consumer. Okay, we will talk about this in the next slides. The second one, we have predator and prey. Who can give us a difference between predator and prey? I'm pretty sure this is not the first time that you see these 2 terms together. What's the difference between predator and prey? Of course, the relationship between them is called predation. Okay, what's the relationship between these 2? What's the difference? Okay, Jewel is right in saying the predator would eat the prey. Okay, so whoever gets eaten, that's your prey. Whoever eats, that would be your predator. Okay, so the predator eats the prey. That's correct. Okay, so again, the relationship is called predation. Now, another type of feeding relationship here is parasite and host. Okay, of course, the relationship here is called parasitism. Okay, you have your parasite, which is the organism that benefits, and the host, which is the organism that is going to get harmed. Okay, so say you have your intestinal flukes. Okay, you have worms inside your body. In your stomach, for example, your worms are your parasites, and you, of course, is the host. Okay, so that's parasitism. We are still going to talk about this today. All right, now, again, we talk about the first feeding relationship that we have here, your producer and your consumer. You will see this in your food chains, your food webs later, okay? Now, when you say producers, these are types of organisms that can make food. Okay, they can make their own food. They are autotrophs. Okay, another term would be autotrophs. That means they have the capacity, they have the ability to make their own food. That means your producers are your plants. Okay, remember, your plants can make their own food through the process that we call photosynthesis. Now, consumers here, on the other hand, they cannot make their own food. Okay, and so what they do is they find other sources of food. Hence, they are also called heterotrophs. Hetero here means many. Okay, they have many or various sources of food. They eat other organisms so that they can get food. For example, your heterotrophs, of course, humans are heterotrophs. We cannot make our own food. And so what we do is we eat vegetables and fruits, your plants. We may also eat lower forms of animals, other animals, so fish, chicken, your beef from cows, and your pork from pig. Okay, so we are heterotrophs. Now, there are 4 different types of heterotrophs here. You're all very familiar with them. Okay, very easy. First one will be your herbivores. Okay, these are your consumers that only eat plants. Okay, so these are consumers again. These are plant eaters. We'd call them primary consumers because they are the first types of consumers that we have in your food chain. Okay, so their only diet, their only source of food would be plants, your herbivores. Now, the second type is your carnivores. This, of course, carne is meat. Okay, so we say these are meat eaters. And there are 2 types for this. We've mentioned your predators. These are animals that eat other animals. And you also have your scavengers. Okay, these are the types of animals that would feed on dead carcasses. Okay, so these are animals such as your hyenas, your vultures. If they see, for example, a lion has killed your zebra, Okay, so your lion is the predator, your zebra is the prey. Okay, after the lion has already eaten enough meat, the lion is going to now leave the carcass. Okay, the dead zebra. So what happens is that your scavengers would now start to eat those dead animals. Okay, so again, that's the difference between your predators and your scavengers. Now, your third type of consumer here would be your omnivores. That's a combination of your herbivores and your carnivores. Okay, so when you say omnivores, they eat both plants and animals. So most of us, I believe, are omnivores. Okay, unless of course you're a vegetarian. Okay, then you might consider yourself herbivore. Now, for number 4, the last one, these are your decomposers. They are also very important. They play a very important role in your ecosystem because they break down dead organisms, okay? And so through this, they can recycle nutrients. They can put the nutrients back into the soil. Examples of your decomposers, of course, are your bacteria, your fungi, your yeast. Okay, so if you have a dead plant or animal, your bacteria is going to attack them, so that their bodies are going to undergo decay or decomposition. Of course, their nutrients are placed back into the soil. Okay, can you imagine a world without decomposers? That means nothing gets or nothing becomes decayed. Okay, nothing decomposes. And so what happens is that the world is going to be covered by dead plants and animals. Okay, and so decomposers are also a very important part in our ecosystem. Any questions so far, people? Any questions? All right, now we go to the next topic that we have here. This is symbiosis. This is a type of relationship that exists between two organisms, a type of relationship that lasts over a long period of time. Okay, so that lasts over time. Okay, so in your symbiotic relationships, in symbiosis, there are actually 3 types of this. Okay, you've seen this, I know, in your junior high school, maybe even before that. You have 3 types of symbiotic relationships. There's mutualism, parasitism, and commensalism. Now, when you say mutualism here, I've typed plus there, because in this type of symbiotic relationship, both of you benefit. Okay, both of your organisms would benefit. Example for this would be your bee and your flower. Okay, so your bee here benefits by getting food from your flower. Your flower, of course, would benefit because your bee is an agent of pollination. Okay, pollen grains from your flower can be transferred from one flower to another. And so, of course, that can help in their reproduction. Okay, so again here, mutualism plus, both of your organisms would benefit. The second type of symbiotic relationship here is parasitism. It's plus minus. Okay, what happens? In your parasitism, one organism benefits, the other is harmed. Okay, now you have 2 types of parasites. Your parasites can be internal parasites. They can also be external parasites. Okay, so your example here is your mosquito and the human arm. Your mosquitoes, of course, these are examples of your external parasites. Okay, they get blood. You have to remember, only mosquitoes that are female are those that suck in blood. Okay, your male mosquitoes don't suck blood. Okay, they use the blood to lay their eggs. Okay, so only female mosquitoes would suck out blood from us. Now, your mosquito here, again, this is an example of your external parasite. Your mosquito would benefit, then of course the human is harmed. Okay, you are harmed, you are bitten by your mosquito. You might have insect bites, or worse, you can get sick because of the various diseases that they can bring. Okay, there's dengue, there's malaria. Okay, these are various types of diseases that your insects may bring. Now, the third type of symbiotic relationship that we have is commensalism. Commensalism here, one organism benefits, the other is not affected. Okay, not harmed, nor is it benefited. So an example that we have here is your orchid and your branch of tree. Okay, so the orchid here benefits by getting food, getting nutrients from the branch of the tree. Your tree is not harmed, and it's also not benefited. Okay, so it also does not get any benefit. So that means that is commensalism. Okay, if you try to think about your relationships, if you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, would you say that your relationship is mutualism? Are both of you benefiting from that? Are both of you happy? Or is one acting like a parasite? Okay, is it parasitism? Is it commensalism? Okay, so again, these are different types of symbiotic relationships, types of very close relationships that last over a long period of time. Okay, now we go to the next term. So we have here food chain, food web. You know this, okay? When you say food chain, you only follow one path of energy, only linear, okay? Only one path of energy, one flow of energy. But when you say food web here, it's more complicated than your food chain. Okay, so here you see various arrows, different colors of arrows denoting various paths of energy. Okay, now remember there's only one source of energy on Earth. What is that source? What is the only source of energy on Earth? The sun. That's correct. Okay, so there's only one source of energy on the Earth, and that is the sun. And so the first type of organism that would utilize that energy, the radiant energy, solar energy coming from the sun, that would be your producers, okay, your plants. Then, of course, your plants here are going to be eaten by your primary consumer, okay, your herbivores. If you take a look at this illustration that we have here, if you see an arrow, whoever or whichever organism is pointed at by your arrowhead, that means that organism eats the other. Okay, so in this illustration here, the snail eats the flower. Okay, the small bird here would eat the snail. Your eagle would eat the smaller bird. Okay, so again, your arrow there denotes or would represent the path of energy, the transfer of energy. Okay, again, only the sun is the main source of energy on Earth, and so this energy is going to be utilized by the different organisms that we have. Okay. Stay with me, we're almost done. Okay, we have two other terms here, biomass and trophic level. When you say biomass, this is the mass of all organisms in your trophic levels, in your ecosystem, minus the water component. Okay, so this is the mass of all of the organisms that you have. Trophic level, on the other hand, this is each link, this is each level in your food chain. Okay, so each level in your food chain, that would be your trophic level. So if you are looking at this food chain right here, okay, you see that there are 4 trophic levels. Okay, your primary or your producer here, that's your first trophic level. Then you have your primary consumer being your second trophic level. You have your secondary consumer as your third trophic level, and so on. Okay, so each level of this is considered a trophic level. And each of them is going to have varying amounts of energy, also varying amounts of biomass. Okay, I will explain that in the next slide. Okay, so this here is our last slide. Again, this here is showing you your food chain. Okay, so again, the sun, we've mentioned, is the only source of energy on Earth. Now you have, how many trophic levels do we have here? How many trophic levels do you see in our ecosystem, in our food chain? Okay, is it 4 or 3? Okay, so remember, you have your trees, you have the rabbits, you have snakes and eagles. So that would be a total of 4. Okay, so that's a total of 4 trophic levels. Now again, remember, the sun's energy will be utilized by your plants. They will use that in photosynthesis. Okay, photosynthesis, making their own food. Now, if you see this illustration in your EOC, and the question is, which among these 4 organisms that you have, the eagle, the snake, the rabbit, and the tree, has the most amount of energy? What will be your answer? Which one has the most amount of energy? Okay, Donovan, Zaria, Adriana are all correct. Okay, correct answer would be the tree. It is the tree that has the most amount of energy, because remember, it is the tree that utilizes the energy coming from the sun. As you go up, it states here, the higher the trophic level, the lower energy it has. And the lower will be its biomass. Okay, so say here your trees have 10,000 kilocalories. The next trophic level, your primary consumer, your rabbits, they'd only get 1,000 kilocalories. Out of that 1,000 kilocalories of your rabbits, the next level is only going to get 100 kilocalories. That means each trophic level would only get 10% of the previous energy from the previous trophic level. Okay, so 10,000 kilocalories, only 10% of that will be taken by the next trophic level. What do you think happens to the other 90%? If your next trophic level is only going to get 10% of the energy of the previous trophic level that you have, what do you think happens to the next energy level? Not to the next energy, to the rest of your energy. What happens to the 90% of your energy? Okay, remember you started with 10,000 kilocalories here. Your rabbits only get 1,000. What happened to the 9,000 kilocalories? You've lost it. That's correct. You actually lost. You actually lose them. That's correct, Nasir. Also, you lose them as form of heat. Okay, they would become heat loss. They're lost. They are returned to the environment through the form of heat. Okay, remember, in your law of conservation of energy, energy is not created nor is it destroyed. It's only recycled. It's only converted from one form to another. Okay, so the rest, the 90% of your energy is actually just lost in the form of heat.